How's it going, everybody? This is Sketch Monkey here, and I just want to make this quick video in reply to Josiah's question in the Sketch Monkey community about his sketches, and specifically in perspective. Rosie's coming here. She looks like she's gonna attack me, so hold on just a second. Rosie, don't go crazy, okay? My shoulder, by the way, is pretty messed up at the moment. I don't know, I have some inflammation in my left shoulder, which is super annoying, but who cares about that? Let's go into this sketch right here. So we have a 3/4 front view and of course a 3/4 rear view here. And the question from Josias was, how do you make sure that the wheels are correct in perspective when you sketch this type of perspective? The thing is, I think you did a pretty good job here, honestly. It looks really good. I like the use of line flow, line weight, that you're using here in the sketch. And what I mean by that is you have different, let's just pick the correct brush here. You have different types of weight in your lines. For example, you have a thicker line in the window up there than you have, for example, in the nose right here, or this fender. And this is great. This is something that not a lot of people actually think about when they're sketching, and it gives this, even though you're using very few lines here, it gives these sketches a sense of depth, and that's really what line weight is all about, specifically when you're not using markers. So let's have a look here, and how you can improve the wheels in perspective is simply by looking at real cars, or as Eric said in the group, have a model car and rotate the car, put it in the perspective that you want, and then try to sketch it and see if you get the wheels right. But usually what tends to happen, or what happens in perspective, is when you sketch a car, when you want to sketch a car in one of these views, the amount of wheels that is showing is obviously going to determine how much of a side view you're going to have. And that is, for example, if we keep the wheels very, very narrow like this, the ellipses for the wheels narrow like this. Rosie, I'm sorry, but you can't be here at the moment, okay? Just hold on a second. If you want to have the wheels narrow like this, that means that we're not going to see a lot of the side, right? Because it's very, very, very tilted towards the rear here. That means that we're going to have to put out the end point for the rear somewhere around maybe here. And then we can start to sketch your car, something like this. This standard stuff, usual. And this is all, you know, after a while, once you've sketched cars like this from real life, you start to get a feel for how much of a side view, how much of a rear view you're actually going to see when you're sketching. And you're gonna get the feel for it and not have to use car models or car photos and stuff like that. But when you're beginning, when you're starting out, that is what you have to do. And also, I want to again remind you and everybody that learning how to sketch takes a long time. It's not something that's going to change dramatically month to month, year to year, yes, but it's going to take several years of practice to get this, you know, the feeling for sketching. And that's when you get to that point, it's definitely all the hours that you spent sketching, it's definitely worth it, because you have so much freedom to just sketch whatever you want. But let's take this sketch down here, and let's say we want to have it more of a what's it called, side view than this. So let's take this and move it over here, and let's do something similar. But now we're gonna start by having a wider ellipse for the wheels, and that means that we're gonna put out, we can use another line here as a baseline, something like this, and then we're gonna make them wider, maybe not that wide, but something maybe like that. It looks good. That means that the distance now between these two are going to increase, and that is only because we're gonna have more of a side view. That means that we're gonna see more of the sides, means that the wheelbase in the sketch is going to have to be longer. I think I've made videos on this before. Honestly, I don't know how to explain it better than that, other than to just keep on practicing and look at real cars whenever you get a chance. If you can get some model cars, that might be a good idea. Personally, I've never used model cars for proportions and sketches. I just actually look at sketches from designers that I admire and enjoy their style, and then I just try to copy and emulate their styles. One designer that had a huge influence on me was Tommy Forsgren. I think he worked with BMW for a few years, design works in Munich or München, and I just love his style. I think his website is toyfon.com. If it's still up, I'm not sure, but on there he had this sketch wall with just very, very rough sketches, but these sketches, they had this dynamic feeling and the proportions were just right, using simple lines and very, very few lines and shading and stuff like that. Most of the sketches were just used with one single marker, and that's where I got my inspiration from when it comes to marker sketching and how I wanted to develop my own style. What happens when you copy someone that you admire, another designer for example, is that you're going to start to see that you're blending their style with your own. It's inevitable. You can't copy anybody's style straight on. But what is going to happen is you're going to take some influence from that person or that designer, and then if you have multiple designers that you enjoy sketching or copying, then you're going to take influence a little bit from this guy, a little bit from this girl, and then you're going to combine it with your own type of style, and that's how you're going to come up with your own unique style over the years. Let's just focus on the sketches of Josias here and see what we can do to change the perspective on it and give you my feedback on what we can do to improve the perspective of it. Rosie's back, of course. Hopefully she will stay calm. She's making me nervous when she stands here. The thing is, Rosie, she always comes running the second I start to record a video. That's just her thing. She wants to be on camera and say hello to everybody. Alright, so let's copy this layer right here and let's see what we can do here. So what I would do to I don't want to say fix, but improve the perspective of these sketches are to think about the wheel here as we did down there in the sketches, and let's just liquefy this. So I think that's the best way to show you the before and after. So here, for example, we have too much of a side view and the wheel arches are too narrow for this perspective. So what I would do is to stretch the wheels out, something like this. Very simple, and this is not going to be super pretty, but it's going to get the point across. We can fill in the lines later on if we want to. But the wheel houses needs to be a lot rounder or a lot wider if you're going to sketch the car in this perspective. And also on top of that, I think it's a little bit too low, even though it is a sketch, I know that, and we like to do the sketches very low to make them, to sell the idea, to sell the design, and we often exaggerate the wheels specifically, and also the ride height of the car. Of course, we want to plant the car to sell the car, to sell the sketch to get in production, for example. But I think we can probably raise the greenhouse a little bit here, and then think about where the A-pillar dips down. This is not easy to do in a 3/4 front view like this, but I think it would be better if we just almost have a horizontal line or vertical line where the A-pillar goes up here in this perspective. So now it looks a bit messy. I have to go in and fix these lines to sketch them out a bit better than this. But to get the point across, I just want to show you this liquefy tool and how fantastic it is to actually modify sketches and of course do redesigns if you want to do that. But that's for the front view. Disregard the line quality here. We're gonna go and do that later on, but for the sake of proportions and perspective, I think we need to do just simple changes like this. Nothing too crazy. I think you did a good job to start out with, so it's not really a lot to fix here other than that. The rear view, I think, is pretty spot on. There's not much I want to fix here. Maybe have a little bit wider of a rear the arch or the arc for the rear fender may be a little bit wider than that, since we have almost 50% rear view, 50% side view. So this angle that we're looking at onto this car is almost straight onto the rear fender. So we might want to have this just a little bit wider than that, and possibly, just possibly, lower the front hood, the front fender, just a tiny bit like that, so we don't have it be larger or higher up than the rear fender, which we have right here. So now let's go in and fix these lines because they look absolutely ridiculous. So we need to just select the brush pen here, and let's go in and see what we can do. So I wanted to have this wider, as I said, make them a little bit wider like that, and then I have the A-pillar of the window just go down almost straight down like this. So we have that angle, tilted angle of this is supposedly, I guess, a mid-engine car, and that means that the A-pillar actually goes down in the front fender. If you look at it from a side view, that means that it needs to go down this way into the wheel itself and not be stretched this way, if that makes sense. Other than that, I like the views of this car, and what we did on the rear view was pretty much nothing. I really like the way you got the proportions right on this. Just lowered the front fender a little bit to have it be lower than the rear. Since the rear is closer to us, that means that the perspective, the 1 point perspective here goes something like this. We have the vanishing point maybe up here, and then it goes like this. That means that the front fender obviously needs to be at a lower point than the rear fender, because we definitely do not want to have our sketches be in an isometric view. That is all for engineers. We're not engineers, we're designers. We want to make the sketches look hot and sexy, and we do that by using all these tricks: the line weight, the perspective, and the stance of our sketches. Those are the few changes that I wanted to make. Other than that, I think it looks really cool. So yeah, that's my answer to your question here. I hope it made sense. Sometimes I feel like these answers or these replies to videos, I feel like I've covered a lot of it in my videos over the years on my channel, of course. And what it comes down to is to just practice and just copy people and sketches that you enjoyed, like we talked about earlier. I hope it was helpful. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have any more questions, just post it in the group. Take care.